Hello and welcome to our inaugural episode of Total Station. This is a property segment that invites professionals and industry leaders in the land and property space to discuss matters property, investments, and the legal aspect of owning land in Kenya. With me today, I have a very distinguished guest. I'll allow him to introduce himself.
So my name is Eric Nyadimo, President for the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya, but I'm also Managing Director of Orca Services Limited. I'm also privileged to be serving as the Chair of the Lands and Physical Planning Sector Board within the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and as well I chair the Technical Committee on Geospatial Standards at the Kenya Bureau of Standards.
Maybe when people hear of Eric Nyadimo as being the President of ISK, they usually imagine a professional leader. But beyond that, beyond the suit and the tie, who is Eric Nyadimo and what would we find you doing on a quiet Sunday afternoon?
On a quiet Sunday afternoon, I'll probably be watching a movie, reading a newspaper. In most instances, I've gone out swimming with the kids. Not that I'm a swimmer, so it's something that I still need to learn.
Our question would be, when you became ISK president, what was the first thing that you did that even surprised you yourself? Something that contradicted the version of leadership that you'd imagined for yourself as ISK president?
I think I've been fairly consistent. So there's nothing that I've done or that I did that I would say surprised me.
Walk me through the actual fork in the road, where that specific moment where you knew that this is the path you're going to choose. Who led you or who nudged you to that path, if anyone?
So when I was younger, my idea was that I was going to be a priest. Then later on, watching TV and seeing soldiers marching, I thought that then I should be a soldier. But eventually, I became a surveyor, and I think it's not by accident that I became a surveyor, because my father was also a surveyor.
You were his assistant, quote unquote.
Well, not exactly. I mean, I was relatively young at that time, and but I could see him working in the house, doing the computations, and because he had a room to himself, and he would be busy doing that. Yeah. So by the time I was joining secondary school, I knew what career path I was going to pursue.
What is that one field job that went badly, where the data, the terrain, the client, or the team didn't cooperate? And what did you learn about yourself when things fell apart?
Well, surprisingly, I'm yet to really experience that catastrophic kind of field activity. But one time we were doing some work, I think it was around Kisumu, and we had to climb a hill, I think, for about 2 hours. And when we reached on top, then we found that we could not be able to trace the control point. But as we completed setting up, it started raining. And it was windy, so we couldn't stay there. So we now had to find our way back and plan for another day to be able to do the work.
On all the projects that you've worked on, which one shaped your philosophy as a surveyor and now prepared you for future roles as a leader?
I think one striking example was where we had to do a survey for, I think it was about a 5,000 acre farm, but the owner only wanted to lease out 0.5 of an acre, half an acre. So here is a case where of course you're doing a subdivision of one parcel into two, but one parcel is just half an acre. And the other one is 499.5 acres. But you look at it from the principle of doing survey, which means working from the whole to the part.
Yeah.
It still means that you have to do the survey for the entire 5,000 acre, so that you can then be able to excise the smaller portion. So a client would think that this is simple. Why don't you just go in and carve out the half an acre?
Is there a decision that you have made as ISK president that a younger field-based version of you would have made differently?
Not really. Because as I've indicated to you that for me, leadership has not been something that I just found myself in. It's something that I've grown into. So, and when I'm making a decision, I look at it that the decision that you make, if you want to know that you're making a proper decision, you would ask yourself, if I was not in this position, would I still make the same decision? If you find that you would not make the same decision if you're not in that position, then that decision is not a correct decision. Okay. But if you would still make the same decision, whether you are in that position or not, then that decision is a correct decision.
Now let us get into the segment where we discuss the state of the profession. And by the state of the profession, I mean the surveying career and how it affects us in general as a country and as a people. Ardhi Sasa has been sold as being transformational, and us as surveyors and some of the privileged professionals such as advocates, valuers, have interacted with that. Both professionals and the public are reporting frequent outages and processing backlogs that often delay landowner transactions. At what point does the response we get that we are working on it become an inadequate response?
So it's good that you bring out the question of Ardhi Sasa, which is essentially a national land information management system. And again, there's nothing new about a digital land information management system. I mean, we are now maybe 40, 50 years into that kind of technology. Mm-hmm. What we did with our version of Ardhi Sasa is that we brought in everything at the same time. So we had the cadastre, we had the land registration, we had the planning and valuation all put together coming at the same time. So that's kind of a drastic change. Continues to present a challenge. This, of course, has led into like swallowing too much, and then you're then struggling to chew. But we have had conversations even with the principal secretary in charge of lands that we need to now have a conversation on the Ardhi Sasa. So that we can see what can be done to be able to improve it. And some challenges that we experience with Ardhi Sasa, for example, you are trying to submit a job and you run into an issue and you find that you cannot save the work. You lose all the work. And then again, you repeat. So anytime you encounter an error, you stop and start. You stop and start. So that is very disruptive. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So that's something that is so basic. The other thing is that Ardhi Sasa provided for tracking. So if I have submitted a job, then it's possible to track and see this job is at what percentage. Yeah. And it should be able to clearly show the administrators of the system that this job has been here for 30 days and it hasn't moved.
It's pending,
yeah. Why again somebody should be going to make calls or to follow up or to push for their job to move? It doesn't make sense, especially in a digital sense. At the end of it, we can say that those aspects, like we are working on it, I think the time for those kind of excuses are gone. We had also suggested that we should have a standing committee. Although, of course, we currently have one, but quasi. But we can have a standing committee that is meeting regularly looking at how this system is performing and what needs to be done to improve on the same.
On our next question, this touches on what has been happening, current news. We've been seeing a lot of demolitions, be it homes, mostly on public land, riparian and road reserves. These properties were surveyed, approved and sometimes financed, occupied for many years, and at the end of the day you see that bulldozer coming and knocking you off your property. At what point in that chain did the surveyor's responsibility end? And is the honest answer to that question something that the profession is willing to admit?
Well, I don't really think the issue of bulldozers tearing down buildings or homes can be just assigned to the surveyor and saying that the surveyor is the one who is actually responsible for that. First of all, we need to look at it on why is a demolition happening. We have seen cases where people buy land, but you are buying land, you are investing in a piece of land, but there's no documentation. You've just been told there's land which is being bought here, it is cheap, and you can be able to get by making payment, and then you start building, and once you build, the government will see that all of us have built and nobody will come and demolish the houses.
Yeah.
Because they'll be looking at it, where will all these people go? And it's basically, shortcuts don't help.
Sure.
So if you want to invest in a property, ensure that that property has the requisite documentation. Mm-hmm. You should be able to undertake due diligence by working with relevant professionals to ensure that you can be able to protect your investment. I know sometimes people will say that professionals are expensive and things like that, but something that is cheap is at the end of the day expensive in the long run. On the issue for the riparian reserve, this is a position that the ISK has advanced, that laws cannot be applied retrogressively. And we have warned, and we are continuing to warn all those people who are going around demolishing on the so-called riparian reserve. That so-called riparian reserve belongs to the owner of that land. The only thing that needs to be done is to ensure that that sensitive ecosystem is being protected. We are saying if the government wants to acquire that piece of land, then they need to follow the channels that are required, compulsory acquisition and do compensation. Yeah. And we are asking anybody who is affected on these issues to get the services of a surveyor to be able to look at what has been measured on the ground, because people need to be advised that in that context, whatever is being done by those entities is not correct. But it also depends on what type of land is it. Is it private land or is it public land? Yeah, true. So where you have public land, of course, then the government has all the rights to be able to take over that piece of land.
And most of the time, that is when you find Kenyans look for surveyors, when things go wrong. And on the issue of the riparians as well, you find surveyors right now are being contracted to go do measurements and finding that there are 15-meter buffer zones, 30-meter buffer zones, which do not correlate with the initial survey. And that puts us at loggerheads. I believe this speaks to the role of the actual professionals in conducting that work. Because as you've mentioned, they're using, I'd say, rudimentary tools, and they're not properly trained to use those tools.
Yes.
So,
and those tapes that they're using, those are not calibrated things.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the matter of education, some of us as graduate surveyors, we are waiting for years before we become fully licensed surveyors in Kenya.
Well, the laws are clear in terms of the period within which somebody should be able to get their license. It's interesting that you're saying that you have graduates who are waiting for years for them to get their licenses. So does that mean that they have applied for the licenses and then they are waiting? Because the information that I have from the Land Surveyors Board, which is a body that is mandated to do the examination and the registration for the licensed surveyors, is that they don't have people applying, right? Mm-hmm. They have nobody in the queue waiting to be licensed. Yeah. So I think the term that people are waiting is not correct. And nobody is going to give you a license by you having graduated from a course. It will be up to you to, in one way or another, to be able to seek and get that license. Now, of course, there are two schools of thoughts that have been coming out, that should we have a school of surveying so that those people who have graduated can go into the school of surveying for that period of 2 years, after which, once they finish, they can then get the licenses, like maybe it's done with a legal fraternity. That's a school of thought which can be looked at. Of course, looking at it, that maybe when we say that these people should work under a licensed surveyor for a period of 2 years, maybe that has become difficult, or the people who are being produced are too many, to the extent that they cannot be supported fully by the licensed surveyors. So these are schools of thoughts which can be discussed. In fact, I was also privileged to have chaired a task force that was looking at the laws and the policies that are affecting survey. And some of the suggestions that we had put in then was that the Kenya Institute of Survey and Mapping could be considered as a school of excellence, where people could possibly go in, graduates could possibly go in there and get trained, and then come out and get their licenses. So that could be a possibility, so that we don't have that aspect of people saying that they're waiting. But if you ask me personally, I think one of the reasons why we tend to have few people who are licensed is because nothing stops the people who are not licensed from doing the work. And I can tell you that there are more people who are not licensed who get work more than even the licensed surveyors.
Yeah.
In fact, you'll find that to some extent these people are the ones who maybe even bring in the work to the licensed surveyors. So what does that tell you? And these people, the same people, are the ones who are going out to the field and doing the work. So what does that tell you? It tells you that they are qualified, right? So why are they not applying? And yet, the examination that is being done by the Land Surveyors Board is not really an examination per se, like the one you do in the university, where you have to sweat it out and try to remember the answers. But this is a case where you're being asked, can you present to us a cadastral survey that you have done? Can you present to us a topographic survey that you have done? Can you present to us a control survey that you've done, or a curvilinear boundary that you've actually done? So you're just presenting the works that you've done. And those are then being looked at, examined, and then you asked questions to check whether you actually did the work on your own. And if you satisfy them, then they amongst looking at other things, then they can give you the license.
That is true. I would like to float an idea around as one of the younger surveyors who are actually going through that process. Would it be that maybe the situation or the reality in the Kenyan surveying space sort of has not aligned yet with where we are and the number of graduates we are producing yearly? For instance, we have a lot of general boundaries in Kenya, and most of the examination is primarily on fixed boundaries. Yeah. And also you find licensed surveyors have a cap or a number of the approved assistants they can sort of like mentor and take through the ropes as they grow up to getting a license. Is there something that can be done in those two lines? Because I believe someone in, I'd say Kisii or somewhere, they tend to do a lot more mutations than fixed boundary surveys, and you find that they've done mutations for quite a while. They are, as you said, qualified, but they get very rare chances to do those jobs. And I'd float an idea of sectional properties. They're not dominant all around Kenya. You find them mostly in the big cities, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu. So what can we do about that?
First of all, I want to dispel the fact that there's something called general boundary survey. That's not a survey, right? And that is something that is so simple, that is being done by even people who have not gone to school. So we cannot pride ourselves and say that I'm excellent in undertaking general boundary survey, because there's even no methodology that you're following or using, right? So it was meant to support rapid registration. At the time when we were getting independence, and people were advocating for individual rights to land ownership, on the notion that if you have your land and you have your title deed, then you can go to the bank, you can secure finances, and you can use that to improve your life, so that you can be comparable with the Mzungu who was there at that particular stage. So there was need for that accelerated aspect of doing the survey, and that is where the general boundary surveys came. But you and myself know that these are things which need to be stopped, and indeed the Constitution did stop them. We should be fixing all the surveys, so that we ensure that all the records are correct, and this will also help to reduce even the conflicts that we have by more than 50%, so that we are clear and sure about the records that we actually have. I still insist that the fact that the law does not prevent somebody who is not licensed to undertake the work is what has made these people to not apply for the licenses. In the proposed bill that we worked on, we said that it will be a requirement that you need to be registered or licensed for you to undertake any survey work, or even to do a proposal, or to do a quotation, or to even attend a meeting. So the moment you do that, all these people who are complaining will go and look for the licenses, because now they'll tell you they're too busy. They'll tell you that their clients have given them work, they have no time to go and attend a meeting, and so on and so forth. And then the fact that the law has capped the number of assistants to 16 does not necessarily mean that you cannot still work under a licensed surveyor. And I know, like, even in the law that we are working on, we removed that cap, because we said that let somebody who has the ability to employ. So if I can employ 100 surveyors, then let me employ the 100 surveyors. The supervision of those 100 surveyors is up to me. After all, that responsibility then becomes mine. So nothing then stops me from bringing on board younger people and getting them into this. So I think there are two schools of thoughts here, that if we want to look at it and analyze it and say that maybe this aspect of saying that you need to be an approved assistant for a period of 2 years and so on and so forth has failed, then can we now take these people to a survey school where they will still have to pay, because it can't be for free. And then I hope nobody then complains that I don't have money to pay, because we also have the same issues with the lawyers. You have to pay for it anyway. Then you go to the finishing school, do it, you finish. Maybe you go for 6 months internship or pupillage, like whatever the lawyers do. And then when you're done with it, you get your license. I mean, I've seen discussions a lot in the WhatsApp forums. But the only way we can be able to do that is if we can ensure that that is put within a legal framework. And we need to agree as a surveyors, because if we can't agree, then the other people will not tell you what to do. You have to be able to provide a way forward with regard to that.
True.
And let me tell you that I've worked with young people, even within my company, and giving them that opportunity to go out to the field, to carry out the work, etc. And you can see that within 3, 4, 5 years, these people can get licenses. Yes, they can get the licenses. And then after that, they can choose either they want to work with you or they want to go and set up their own places and work. It's not something that is difficult. And what the young people need to do is that first they need to stop believing the naysayers. They need to stop believing the naysayers. They need to stop believing those people who say that there is a cartel. There's no cartel. There's nobody who sits down and says that I like the way Rambeka looks like and therefore you get a license. I don't like the way you walk and therefore you don't get a license. And let me tell you also that a profession that does not bring in young blood, at the end of the day, will not succeed.
Yeah.
And not just a profession, but even an entity, even a company, you need to have young blood.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is the only way you can ensure sustainability of that organization or institution. So we need more younger people to get licensed. And if we can get more younger people licensed, then we can do a lot more than we are currently able to do.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. I
So
agree with that.
let the young people not fear. Let them take that particular chance. Let them talk to the right people. There are so many people who are very negative in their thoughts because they have maybe been frustrated through their life, and they want to now turn that frustrations to the younger people.
Yeah.
Right? Let the young people with open minds take up these initiatives and move on in the proper direction. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Listen to the right people. Don't listen to people who are misguiding you or misdirecting you, and yet they have not been able to do those things that they're saying that need to be done.
I think that will be one of the key takeaways from this conversation that we're having. Get the right mentor, and they will direct you on the correct path and ways to follow.
As a matter of fact, we have now onboarded within ISK a mentorship program, and soon we will be releasing communication to members, because we have seen many of these young people need mentors.
True.
They need to be mentored in the right direction, right? With the right people, with the right tools. Yes, and that will help them.
And thank you for dispelling those notions that are out there. And I hope you, as a young surveyor thinking of progressing your career, you have had this and you can make those steps.